Okay, I am back. Jet fuel on board. We are ready to go. All right. So today we're doing strings. And let's see. Let me get my screens a little more organized here. All of the standard disclaimers apply. Hopefully, looks like mostly the same old crew here that we've got most of the time. And can I put the link in chat? Sure. I will put them both in chat actually. Okay, there you go. Okay. Peter, I see that you're here, and I think the questions that you've been asking me are going to get answered in this webinar. And if they aren't, then ask me when we're done. But you should be pretty darn close by the time we get done with this, I think. Okay, so standard disclaimers apply. We're getting closer and closer to having full working code, as you'll see today. We're going to add a few new little twists that get us a little bit closer. Then we're going to do dates on on Saturday, which are dates are a bit challenging till you get the hang of them. But then that's kind of the last piece. Then on the last day, which will be Tuesday, we'll put it all together. We'll do error handling and some other odds and ends. And at that point, you guys should be capable of writing a pretty good script. So this is how you follow along. I've given you the code snippets. And let's just jump into strings. So a string is a data type in PHP or in any language, actually. It's sort of what we would think of as text. It's got letters, numbers, punctuation, special characters in it. But PHP, even though it could be a novel, literally, it could be an entire novel as a string, but PHP would treat that as a single piece of data with a data type of string. And so the way that PHP knows it's a string generally is that it is entirely contained within quotes. So whatever is between the two quotes, that's what PHP is going to look at as being a string. Now that's kind of a broad statement for a couple of reasons that you'll see as we go through strings. It's sort of like that. Remember the other day when, oops, wrong thing. When we were doing equals and really equals, we were saying this means kind of loosely equals and this means identical to. Well, the statement I just made is more of a loosely equals. It isn't exactly, because you're going to see why. There are actually two other ways that you can specify a string way far outside, obscure and far outside anything that we need or want, so I'm not even going to cover those. And I'm going to show you some other things that are kind of cool that you can do as well, having to do with PHP's ability. I keep telling you it's a loosely typed language, and it's able to do this thing called type juggling and interpretation, where it can actually get kind of smart about when you put something in the middle of a string that isn't a string and figuring out what that is. So that's why I say it's not entirely in the inside a string, but that's how it figures it out, is a quote or double quote largely. So so generally it's going to look like this. I'm sure you've seen them every day in class. I've had them. Like it looks like this, right? In this case, we're assigning it to a variable, but we don't have to. We could be echoing it or nothing at all, really. And inside the quotes, it says, my phone number is, you notice it's got spaces, it's got letters, it's got numbers, it's got characters, right? Punctuation. So that is an example of a very, very basic string. Now, so there's a question, right? So I said it could be in a single quote or double quote. Well, when does it mean anything? Can I pick? Can I just put it in whatever I want? Truthfully, most of the time the answer is yes. You really can. Doesn't matter. You can't mix and match. You can't do like, a double quote at one end and a single quote at the other. But that's not going to work. But you can, have a single quotes around a string here, and the very next sentence you can have double quotes, or I mean a statement you can have double quotes. It actually doesn't matter. However, like with most things, in programming, there actually is sort of a rhyme or reason to these things. So my rule is that I tend to use single quotes unless I need double quotes. So one is just lazy. I don't have to hit the shift key. But there are specific uses for double quotes. Okay, so let's look at single quotes first, and then I'll show you double quotes, and I'll show you what the use case is for the double quotes. Okay, so single quote. All right, we'll do this in your code editor here in a second, but so my one little comment here is that we use a backslash to escape characters that might be interpreted as being part of the code. So I've got some examples here. When I say the backslash, that's the one under your delete key, not the one underneath the question mark. Okay, so a backslash being the one under the delete key. So if you look at this one, well, you know what? Let's just do it this way. Let's not mess around with that text. Let's just these are I'm going to copy and paste. Okay, here. Okay, so this is the same thing, I believe, is what's on your handout. So it says, except for maybe I added some breaks. It's the same. Okay, so I said this is a simple string. And then I put a break. And so these are between single quotes. And there's really nothing in here besides some HTML, and it's going to interpret that no problem. Okay, here I said you can have embedded new lines and strings this way, meaning you can actually, I can even do it like this, make hard carriage returns in my code. And you'll see that PHP ignores that. Okay, so within, other than one space, if I did something like this too, okay, you'll notice it's going to ignore that too. It's going to put it one space, but after that it ignores it. If you want more than that, you have to use a special character called a non-breaking space character. Which would look like this actually. Some of you who use HTML will have seen it. Okay. But otherwise, if it's not that, it's going to ignore white space. Now, here's where we get to this idea of escaping something, because so an apostrophe, for example, right, looks the same as the single quote that we use to bracket a string. So if we did not have this, see what happens? This turns um, the wrong color, black, because it thinks it's hit the end of the string. So the way that you tell it, no, actually that's not the quote ending the string, it's called escaping it. You escape characters that might be interpreted as being part of the code with this backslash. So that's an example. A $sign, an @ for an email address, things like that, that it's going to misinterpret you if you put a slash in front of it, or it's called escaping it. Then it'll say, oh, the character that comes next, that's still part of the string. Okay. So that's what we did there. Now, and notice that in this case, right, we have double quotes inside the single quotes. And so because it's inside the single quotes, it says, oh, okay, so that's part of the string, right? It understands that because it's inside the single quotes. Okay, and I'm going to run this in just a second. So then here's another one. So typically these \n or \l or \r, these are like new line, like character returns. But you'll notice that in this string, when it's in single quotes, that it's not going to give you a new line. It's going to just print that, okay, inside the string, and that's has to do with it being inside the string. And then here's the last one. When you're in single quotes, here's a variable, right? $sign expand, $sign either. And you're going to notice that when we print all this, what happens? And for some reason, this has all been very slow to print once I get to the server. So I apologize if it goes slow. But okay, so here's our simple string followed by the break. Then remember I said I put in all these non-breaking spaces here, but I said that it was going to ignore this line break, and it was going to ignore these spaces as well between PHP and ignores. You can see if I made this bigger, you can see the only extra spaces or returns that it sees are the ones where I put the non-breaking space code or the break code, which are both HTML. Here under Arnold says I'll be back, you can see that it actually printed both the double quotes and the apostrophe, but it takes out the escape character. That escape character is just to say, hey, don't print this, but just be aware that this next character is part of the string. Okay, here it did not expand this to a new line, which we wouldn't expect it to, and as expected, it printed these what could be variable names as if they were the string, and because they're in single quotes, and that's exactly what we expected to have happen. Now let's compare that to double quotes. Okay, so we'll just we'll just copy these again and um, put these. Now this is interesting. Okay, so you'll notice here on my code editor, this is the same string, this time in double quotes, simple string. Here is our one with the line break, also in double quotes. And here is our Arnold says, I'll be back. Now, an interesting thing is going to happen here. If I take this out, okay, well, either way, actually, let's just run this and see what it's not going to like this. And I can tell you it's not going to like this because all you have to do is look at what happens after this. You know, this is again the beauties of using a text code editor is, you know, comments are gray and your you know, semicolons at the end are black until it doesn't like something, and then all of a sudden things start turning the wrong color, right? So as soon as I run this now, it's going to give me an error. And it's running. And there's my error. Unexpected string. It's like, what? What are these? Right? I don't understand that. It's the exact same thing that we had up here. The only difference is that it's now enclosed in double quotes instead of single quotes. So, there any ideas about how we would get this statement to run properly if we wanted it to be in double quotes for some reason? And I'm about to show you a reason why we would care about that in just 1 second. Any ideas about that? Good idea. Simon says maybe take out the escape. So take this out. If I save that, nope, still doesn't like that. What else do you guys think? So we want this still to be inside these double quotes. No. Nope. Actually, that's not it. Put the single quote in. No, no. That's not it either. I'll give you a hint. Whenever we want to tell it that something is going to be part of a string and not part of code, what do we do? Huh. Everything turned back to its right color. So if we try it now, oh, actually we don't need that one. Okay, because we're telling it, there we go. Because we're telling it, okay, these two quotes, these are actually quotes. I know they're double quotes inside of double quotes, but just telling you, coming up, these are not code, these are part of a string. Okay. Now, the other thing we could do, and what we would typically do, is we would do this. You would not put double quotes inside double quotes. You would do this, right? And then what happens if I run it? Then we get it like that, okay, without having to escape anything. Okay, so that's a little bit about escaping characters. And like I said, that's the main thing you use it for, actually. But there are a few others. Every once in a while, apostrophes. You see this a lot in like names, or sometimes like greater than or less than symbols is another place. When you've got a lot of times, like when someone's like O'Donnell, and it messes up your script, it's because you weren't escaping the apostrophe in their name, things like that. But let's go to that's. I mean, I actually rarely run into things that I need to escape, because I just don't work that much with long strings really in Infusionsoft, but you could. But here's the main reason why you might want to use double quotes. Okay, I have been doing this in class since we started. Okay, I've been writing code that looks like this. A equals 1, B equals 3. Well, that's pretty messy, isn't it? And then I would say something like, and it's rather tedious, right? But I say A equals concatenated with A, concatenate with, and B equals, close quote, concatenate B, concatenate, break, quote, semicolon, like that. You've seen me, I've been writing that since we started. Okay. Now, and that's fine. When I run that, okay, I get I messed up a space, but anyway, you get the idea. I get A equals 1 and B equals 3. But the main reason that you would use double quotes is, here's a shorthand for you. With double quotes, you can do this, which is, I can just say like this, echo, double quote, A equals A, and B equals B, double quote, semicolon. Now, this is that thing I said about PHP being so clever. Let's add a break in here too, about interpreting and type juggling. because what it's going to do now is it's actually going to figure out that, oh, this this is a variable in here. Because it's in double quotes, it's going to try to interpret, if it can, and expand these variables. So when I run that now, any minute now, come on, I do not know why this is, maybe I'm just having internet connection issues here. There it went. Okay, do you guys see what just happened? It looks exactly the same, but I didn't have to do all this concatenate mess. Okay, I just let PHP do what it does and interpret. Had I written this exact same statement, however, in single quotes, it will not work. This will not work. Definitely won't work without a quote. Okay, that will, see, you can even tell it's not going to work. See how here it's like, normally my variables are purple, right? Here it's orange, like, ooh, okay, I gotta try to interpret that. I'm not going to tell you right now it's a variable, but I'm thinking it might be. But here it's like, this is a string. It's still red, right? So this is not going to work. We aren't even going to waste our time trying. Okay, so that is one of the main reasons that you want to use the double quotes now as a string. Now, there's some other things that you can do with this idea as well. So, for example, I can say juice equals apple, and string juice equals apple, and I can say great equals fantastic. Okay, and then I can say echo. Now, double quote. Okay, he drank some juicy juice. Okay. Oh, I want that break in there again, otherwise our stuff's going to be all messed up. Okay, he drank some juice. Or I can say, we can keep going. I can get a little bit trickier with this stuff. I can say echo. Now, this is a different syntax, okay? This is the other syntax. You can also do you can also put squiggly brackets around the variable inside the double quotes, and you will get the same result. And I guess I don't actually know why you would do that, other than to say they call this like simple and this complex. And I suspect that, there's this way there's like absolutely no doubt for the, that you're telling PHP, hey, this is a variable, but I this always works for me, so I don't really know why you have to do that. But anyway, that is in case you, so I'm not telling you because I actually expect you to use it, but more in case you see it and you go, uh, okay, that I remember that. Okay. Okay, a couple of people have to drop out. Peter, that's too bad. You got to go. I understand. But check the recording because this is actually going to tell you how to solve your tag thing. So see you guys. We're going to miss you and all your good questions. Okay. So, but let's keep going. So the other thing then, though, that we can do is we can make some arrays. So we can say juices equals array, and then we're going to say apple, and then we're going to say orange. And I didn't show you this when we did arrays before, but this is where we're actually kind of mixing and matching. Oops, this needs to be Kool-Aid 1 is purple. I know you don't like that. Okay, see if I got that right. Kool-Aid 1, oh, I just totally goobered that whole thing up. Kool-Aid 1 is purple, like that. Okay, so what, oh, still goobered up. What is that? Okay. Sorry about that. So remember, so this is just like a simple array. The first two elements are simple. The second one is, or the third one is associative, which you can do. Actually, again, this has to do with the fact that PHP is actually pretty good at this, figuring stuff out here. So the fact that you just said apple and orange here means we're going to have to refer to these as 0 and 1. But here we have a key value pair that we can also use to refer to. So now I can do things like in my double quotes here, I can do things like he drank some. Now I'm going to call some array juices 1, then, which is also like a variable, juice break. Okay, semicolon at the end. Or, okay, we'll see how this all works out. Or echo double quotes. Now remember, this has to be in double quotes. I'm just going to copy this. This will be faster. Okay, like this. So here it's juices Kool-Aid 1, misspelled, like this, juice. And then here it's going to be he drank some juices 0 juice. And we'll end that with an extra break. Okay, so let's run this. So now, so not only am I just putting a simple variable in here, but I can also put in, I can point to elements in an array like that. So let's try that and see what this all looks like. See? All right, so this is where we were. Actually, let's get rid of all this. I'm gonna next time we print, I'm gonna get rid of some of this so it's easier to read. Get rid of all that. Okay. There. Okay. So he drank some apple juice. This is fantastic. Okay. These two were just the variables. Here, these were the arrays. He drank some orange juice, some purple juice, and some apple juice. Okay. So these are all examples of how we can use variables inside double quotes in a string. And it's just a heck of a lot easier than doing this whole concatenate thing. Now, there are times when you'll have to use that concatenate, but a lot of times you don't. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about concatenate and append. Okay, those are your two string operators. Concatenate and append. And they're similar. Okay, so what you do is you would say, I'm just going to copy and paste. Actually, I'm going to copy and paste this whole mess. This will be better. Okay. Perfect. So here's our concatenate. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because we've been doing this all along. But notice, right, that these are, what we've done is we've put a value in A and a value in B, right? And we've said, a value in A and then concatenated that with world and assigned it to B and then echoed B. Okay, so we're saying A is hello. This is a little hard because these are kind of in the way. But if they're not there, it's a little, oh, that's better. Here, I can just do it like this. Yeah. Okay. Now they're out of the way, but they still apply. So we're going to echo A, which is hello. Then we're going to say B is equal to A, concatenated it with world, and we're going to echo B, and that's going to give us hello world. Okay. However, get rid of all this. However, the other way to do it is append. Sometimes you don't want to use two different variables. You want to use the same one. So this dot equals, that means append. So in this case, A equals hello. But then we're appending to that world. And if so, you can just keep, this is a way like every time, for example, you go through a loop where you want to just keep adding to the same variable as an example. And when you're all done, you print whatever is in the variable. That's where you would use append. So it's kind of a handy little string function as well, or a string operator rather. Well, there it goes there. Okay, so two different ways to get to basically the same place. One uses two variables, one uses one. Okay, now we're going to talk about now we're going to get into the cool stuff. We are going to talk about string functions. And in your handout, whatever I did with your handout, I actually put the reference here for the list of string functions. And as you might expect, I could probably just click on these. There's a bunch of them. Okay, so some of which you'll use, some of which you won't. Again, as always, the important point is to know that they're here. And to me, this is very much like Excel. If for any of you who are, big users of Excel, if you start looking at how many functions Excel actually has, there's so many of them. So, you unless you're a real serious power user, chances are you don't even know a fraction of them. But generally, you know that whatever it is that you want to do, there is a function to do it. You just have to go look up what that function is. Is it a string? And by the way, they're generally in Excel organized in the same way that these are. There are string functions, there are arithmetic functions, there are logical all of those same things that apply in Excel apply here. So in the same way that when you needed to do something, you would go to Excel's reference for functions and try to find the one that does what you need, like converting logical Hebrew text to visual. Who knew? It's there. You just have to know to go look for it. Now, there are a few that I definitely do use that I'm not going to go over today. The HTML entities and also I believe, HTML special characters. We went over on the first day when we were talking about query strings. We also did URL encode, wherever that is, here somewhere. Anyway, it's in here. But the two that I want to talk about today are, the big one is explode. And then we're going to do a couple of other things as well. So we're going to do explode. Oh, and parse URL. We'll do that one too. Explode and parse URL. So if you look at explode, what you will come back. Window, come back. Okay, if we go to explode, which is up here. So what explode does, it's very handy. Explode takes a string and puts it in an array so that you can work with it. And by a string, what I mean by that is, like, think about a CSV file, which is, if you really, it's actually one big long string. And what happens when a computer reads a CSV file is it breaks it up on the commas. That's what a comma delimited file means. So the commas are the delimiters. And within that, so it takes that big, huge, long piece of text or string, and it breaks it up into bunches and bunches of little strings, whatever is between the commas. Well, actually, now in case of a CSV, it may actually not break them all up into strings. It may make some numbers and some dates and so forth. But for our purposes, what explode is going to do is it's going to break them up into strings, and it's going to put them in an array. Okay, so here are two examples. And then I've got another example for you using the API. So rather than do this here, we're going to do it here. So, so here's your two explode examples straight from the PHP manual, and then I'll show you the API one. So pizza equals, now here what we're going to do is we're just going to make a list, and there's nothing but spaces. Okay, between each one of these pieces of text. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to say pieces equals, and we're going to call this text or string function called explode. And the string function generally has two arguments. Okay, one is what is the delimiter, and the other is where's the string that we're going to explode. Okay, so what we're saying in this case is the delimiter is the blank. So between each blank, whatever is between each blank, we want to explode into an array. Okay, and that the string that we're exploding is pizza. Now there is actually, if you look at the explode function, there is also a third parameter, which is limit. If you want, let me see if they give you an example of limit. Yeah, they do here. If you want, you can put a third argument in here, like 2, and it will only give you the first 2 pieces of the string. So I'll show you how that works in a second. We'll add that. Okay, but for now, that's optional. So for now, we're just going to do it like this. All right, so we've got our statement, we've got our explode statement. So now let's do some echoes. So we're going to echo, okay, because remember, it's going to make this into an array, which is handy because we can do what with arrays? We can loop through them, right? So here's one, echo pieces 0. Remember that every array has a starting index of 0. And I forgot this, like that. And so let's do another one. Now we could actually do it like this. Why am I doing it that way? That seems like the hard way. We'll just do a little concatenate thingy here, like that. Or I could put it in double quotes, like we did. Should we do that just because we can now? And now we're going to be tricky. Let's see what happens when we do it that way. How about that? Okay. It might not like that. Echo pieces, why wouldn't you like that? Let's just run that one, because I'm thinking it doesn't like that one. Oh, it does. Okay, so it gave you piece 1. It's colored funny, but it took it anyway. Okay, so let's do another one. Let's say instead of let's say pieces 1. Okay, and now we run that, and we got piece 2, because remember it starts with 0. So 0, the first item in the array is this pieces 0. The second item is pieces 1. Now let's do a different example though. Okay, so that's an example of, so you could see, right? Here's one big long string, and it broke it up into an array with a delimiter of the space. Now, had I done this, let's just say I put a limit of 2, and I tried to print or echo pieces 4, like that. Oh, now that's interesting. Huh. Let me go back and look at my look at our documentation and see why it did that. Because that was certainly not what I was expecting. Let's go here. No, sorry, wrong one. That is, I have way too many windows open. No, this one. Okay. Positive limit. So in this example, we said, oh, it did. Okay, it did. Interesting. All right, I just learned something. I actually thought that it would give you a limit of 2, which it did. However, what it does is it says, okay, I'm going to take however many are left, and I'm going to put them all together in that one element. So the first one is 1, then the second one is 2, 3, 4. Okay, got it. So it did exactly what it was supposed to do. Since I don't really ever use a limit, I was unaware that that's what it did. So that's exactly what it was supposed to do. Interesting. It just gave me 2. So if I'd said 3 here, and I print 3, oops, oh, it's not going to do that because I didn't have a 3. There is no 4 because I told it a limit of 3. But if I say 3 now, it's going to do 3. What? 0, 1, 2. Nope, there's no 3 either, right? Because it's 0, 1, 2. If I do 2, that's going to be the one. There, pieces 3, 4, 5. Very interesting. Okay, so I learned something on that one. All right. Well, you could create a one-based array the same way that you, Simon, that you would create it with anything else. So let's see if we can figure it out. Simon wants to know, how would we create a one-based array? So let's just do the way we do all things, right? So we go PHP one-based array. And in arrays, it's going to give us an example of a one-based array. Just love this thing. Here, one-based array, right? And the way that we do that is we started out with this 1 equals. So your question is, how could we do that based on this. So we're going to explode pizza. Yeah, I see your point. Just for fun, what if we did this? Oops. What if we did, I think it probably looks like this. Maybe. I'm not sure that you can even do it, by the way. I'm just playing now, but let's just see. Yeah, no, it doesn't like that. Let's see. So pieces, it's already an array. It's going to give us an array. Well, let's try something else. Our good friend Stack Overflow. So here we have an array where 1 and 2 are the IDs. I want to explode. I don't know. Actually, I don't want to hold this up too long because he's asking basically the same question. Load in a zero-based array and then reprocess it into one using a loop. Yeah, I mean that's basically what they're saying here. We can probably look and see if there's any other answer than that. I don't want to hold us up too long here though. So yeah, but anyway, just so you know, that's how I find that. Yeah, you bet. That's how I find the answer to everything, right? If I need to know how to do something, then almost always Stack Overflow has the answer. PHP has the reference, and Stack Overflow will tell you how to do it. So that's always like my two go-tos when I need to figure out something new. Half of the things I've learned how to do in PHP, I've done thanks to Stack Overflow. Okay. So let's go, let's keep going though. I want to show you some other examples here before we get to the API one. Okay, so this is the other example. So this is where we say, and this is like such a complicated thing that I'm going to copy it. I'm not going to try to. This is actually from the PHP manual. This is their example number 2. So I'm just going to copy and paste rather than typing it. So here, what they've got is, now this is interesting. So this is not your one-based array, but it is a kind of a similar thing. How do I create an associative array, right? So what they've done is they said, okay, here's our list, and the delimiter is a colon. Okay. So inside that list, we've got foo, colon, asterisk, colon, 1023, colon, 1000, colon, blank. Then we've got some path, and then we've got some more path, right? So then what they did is they said, all right, now we're going to use the list function, and we're going to say, all right, in our list, we're going to call these user, pass, user ID, GID, geckos, home, and shell, right? These are all obviously like Linux type, server type functions. Equals, so this list equals explode data on colon. And so now what happens when you say echo user or echo pass, it's going to use user and pass and find foo and star like this. Foo and star. Okay, so that's kind of a handy dandy little functionality as well. Okay, now, so you can't do a so this is putting it in, in a variable. Now let's use the API, because this is how I probably use this function the most, and the thing that I use it the most with. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to do our standard API stuff. We are going to require the istk.php. Okay, this is like our standard starting thing. We're going to give it a variable of app, and we're going to instantiate it as a new istk. And then we're going to say if app, and then here's our object-oriented CFG config, and we're using sandbox as the name of our connection. And perfect. So if it connects, we're going to do all these things. Else, we're going to print not connected. Echo not connected. Okay, so that is our standard starting point. Okay. Else, okay, perfect. Now, here's what we're going to do in here. There's actually a bunch, because we're going to put a bunch of the concepts that we've learned over the last couple sessions. We're going to put them all to work in here at the same time. All right, so watch this, you guys. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do a contact load. And I've talked about, let me find it in the API docs. I've talked about it, there it is, a couple different times, but just so that you're clear on it, what contact load is different than query. Where you use contact load is when you know the user ID of the contact that you're going to be working with. You know who this is. This is Nessa Dog. And I want to know Nessa Dog's email, first name, last name, and some custom field. And so I'm just going to ask it to return that information and load it in a variable called condat so I can work with it. Okay? So the syntax for that, as always, is just super easy to copy and paste right out of the documentation. However, in this case, I don't want all that mess. I actually want only one thing, and it is not, in this case, email. It's this. If you go to the contacts table and you look at that table, I did it again. I didn't turn the lights on again today, and now my office is getting totally dark. I'll be so glad when it gets light earlier. So if we go to the contact table, the one we work with the most, well, let me just show you something else. Let me show you. We're going to be working with tags, okay? That's what I want to work with. Now, tags are kept in a couple different places. And you've heard me say this before. One of those places is in this group assign table. No, yeah. And remember that in Infusionsoft, a group is their word for tag, okay? And that's from way back in the day. They weren't called tags, they were called groups, and so all the tables and field names have kept that. No, that's your system user. Sorry, I'm in the wrong table. It's not that one. It's, hang on. It's, so you can tell I don't ever use this tag table because what I'm gonna show you in just a second. Where the heck's the tags? Oh, here. Contact group assign. This one. This one is the one I'm looking for. Yeah. Okay. Now, this is weird too. And I'm just going to talk about, as long as we're here, we might as well talk about this. When in the tables, the table structure of Infusion, you might be like saying, wait a minute, what's this contact at? This is the tag table. You can see it says this table has one entry for each tag that a contact has. If you have one contact with 5 tags, you will find 5 entries in this table for that given record. Oh, okay. So the things that you would expect to be in here are group ID, that's the tag ID, contact group, which is a string, that's the name that's given to the tag. And then you have the date created, and this is handy because we use this a lot too. This is the date that the tag was applied, and then the contact ID. Okay. Now, occasionally what Infusionsoft will do is they'll say, well, you know what, so rather than having to make different calls, because if you're going to pull this, you probably want some other information about the contact. So what we'll just do is we'll give you a bunch of the other information from the contact table in the group assign table, rather than just the 4 fields that are native to group assign. So those are always, when you see something like that, it looks like this: contact dot address 1 type. So you can in fact access a bunch of the contact information, strangely enough, from this tag table, which is a little bit weird, but these are the things that are like native and actually in this tag table. Okay. However, the thing is, I don't want that table. Okay. I don't want 5 records for each tag, although I could. I prefer generally to do it the other way. Now the funny thing is we get you to the same place, but I generally prefer to do it the other way. Okay, and the other way is in the contact record. Because I work with the contact record so much, and it has so much more information, like all my custom fields, and stuff. Way more fields than what I had available there. There's this called groups. Now, it's read only. You can't write to this, but it's a field containing groups, meaning tags. It's one big long comma delimited string with every tag that is assigned to that contact. Okay? And so that's what I want back. Right? In my load, I want, for this contact, I want to load their groups. And I need a contact who has some tags. So I'm going to use Nessadog, who is 133. Oops. 133 is Nessa's in the sandbox. Okay, so what I'm saying now is for Nessa, contact 133, load groups, the field, whatever the value is that is in groups. Okay, because I want to work with that and I want you to put it in this variable called condat. Okay, so once we load it, then just for fun, we're just going to stop right at this point and we're just going to do print r on condat. Okay, so if I do, make sure everything else has been commented out. So if I do print now, or save rather, now I have an error, line 117. What did I miss? Ooh. Oh, doesn't have a $sign. There we go. Now try it. Okay. Now see this? So it's an array, okay, which we've been working with. The array is called condat. It's a multi-dimensional array, okay, and it's got the first element is called groups, and in groups there's this string 112, 122, 128, 141. These are the tags that Nessa has. This just their IDs. That's all I care about. Okay, so now that I have this string, what we're going to do is we're going to explode that string. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say tags equals explode. And what's the delimiter on this string? Well, it's a comma, okay? And the other argument that we need for explode is what is it that we're going to explode? Now, in this case, I could assign this to a variable first, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to do it this way. Well, let me ask you guys, because at this point you should be able to tell me this. So if I wanted to, if I wanted to refer to the value in that array, 112, 122, 128, 141, type for me your answer about what's the syntax, how am I going to refer to that? And don't cheat and look on your code samples. While you guys are thinking and typing, I'm going to turn on my lights actually. Crickets. Are you guys still there? Anyone have an idea? Okay. You already cheated. So everyone already looked, so they're not answering. All right, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, so we'll do it. We'll do it. So the answer is it's condat and then the element, which has a name of groups. And that's why it is so handy to do these print R's on these arrays, because it basically just tells you the answer, right? You know it's condat, and then it says, oh, there's only one element, and that's called groups. So it's really easy once you've done a print R to figure that out. So we're going to take that and we're going to assign that to strings. So, okay, so this is now, tags is now what? Is this a string or an array? Anyone know? Is tags have a data type of string or array? What does explode do? Nessa's GPS collar is low on batteries. Okay, I got a few answers. Now Troy, that's cheating. Can't be both. Okay, some people said string, some people said array. Troy said string then array. It's actually an array because, well, okay, I see what Troy's saying. What explode does is explode takes a string and turns it into an array. So actually you are correct. The more I think about what you said, right? So it turns it into array. Therefore, tags is an array, and in order to display or print an array, what do we have to use? Echo or print R? Echo or print R? If I type echo, what's going to happen here? Yeah, print R, exactly. Okay. So if we do a print R, because it's an array, echo's not going to work. If we do a print R on tags, now look what we have. Ha! It's taken our string of 112, 122, 128, 141 and created its own array with 4 different elements. So now, guess what we can do with this? We can loop through this, which is what we did on Tuesday, right? So I think almost all of you were here on Tuesday. Which loop do we use for looping through an array? Any ideas? Yes, excellent. Yay, you guys, well done. A for each loop is what we're going to use to loop through an array. So let's do that. For each. So we're going to say for each tags, because that was then the variable at tags. Tags, that was the variable of the array. For each tags as, and remember, normally it's like for each something as value, and you can either say value or you can say whatever makes sense to you. So I'm just saying for each tags as a tag, okay, we're going to do this loop. So for each value in our array, we're going to loop. And in the loop, here, I need something first because I'm going to actually create a counter just so that we can see how many times we go through the loop. So we'll say count equals 1. Okay, just so that we have that. Now, within our loop, here is what we're going to do. First thing we're going to do is we're going to say, we're just going to echo. We'll just echo first. We're going to say echo loop number is, and notice I've got double quotes, right? So because I've got double quotes, I can do what? I can just stick my variable right in the middle of my string and let PHP figure it out for me. Okay, so that's the first thing. We're going to echo loop number is count. And the first time through, it's going to be 1. All right, I'm just looking at questions here. Okay, then what we're going to do is now we're going to use, going all the way back to like the second class, I think, we're going to use an if. And we're going to say if tag, which is this, because remember when you're inside these loops, these for eaches, you use this. Okay, if tag equals loosely 128, then what are we going to do? Well, if tag equals 128, we're going to say echo, I found it. Oops, and I forgot a bunch of stuff. Echo, yeah, you're going to want that over there like that. Okay, so we're going to say echo, I found it. And then the other thing we're going to do, which we did Tuesday, is we're going to say break. So that means that when it finds tag 128, it's going to just break out of this loop and go to whatever comes next in the script, which in this case is actually nothing. Okay, but if it's not 128, so here's the beginning and end of, so this is the if. Oh, see, I didn't close. Oh, yeah, I did. So here's the closing of the if, and here is the closing of the for each, which, by the way, here's yet another reason why code editors are handy. See, if I delete that bracket, if you watch this bracket up here, when I add that bracket back, it might be hard to see over the GoToMeeting, but it kind of does a little wiggle to let me know that that's the open bracket that it belongs to. So that helps me figure out that this goes to this goes to this. So right in here, after the if, but before the closing bracket, what I want to do is I want to increment my counter like that. Okay, so that if it's not 128, it's going to add 1 to count and try the next one. And so we can kind of see what it's doing. All right, so let's try that and see what happens. If I save that now, do I want to get rid of any of this stuff? I do. I want to get rid of all this here, this explode stuff. Okay, so let's try it now like this. Oh no, what do you mean can't? Is that because of something I did? or just because it can't. Failed getting banner. I must have a connection because you guys can still hear me. It's been really, really slow all day every time I hit save. I just try this again. I just don't know why I can't save. Huh. Let me do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to try to reconnect here. So I'm going to just grab this so I don't lose it. Close. I'll just say don't save. And close that. And let's just disconnect and reconnect and see if we get anywhere. And this was the name of the file. And no way. You guys, I know I hit copy before I said don't. I mean, I have it on gist, obviously, so it's not the end of the world, but doggone it. But I had it all laid out just the way I wanted it. All right, hang on. Let's just see what we get here. I gotta comment out all this stuff that we've been doing. Copy. Glad I put that on gist, or I'd have been in big trouble. Ooh, does not like something. Oh, it doesn't like this thing up here. Okay. So I guess I could just do the whole thing. But I want it this way in case I have to go back to it. Bear with me. I guess I should save it before I do all this just to make sure it's going to work. And this was the last piece here. All right, so this is where, no, we don't want this stuff. We're not there yet. Get rid of you. Okay. Save. There. Okay. Save that time. So I don't know, it just connection must have gone bad. So let's do this. Open a preview window. Oops. But I messed something up. 180. Hang on. Unexpected. It's got an extra. Oh, an extra curly bracket there, I bet. Try this. Nope. Oh, really? Else. Hang on. Unexpected else. Why do you have an unexpected else? Oh. Because where's the start of the if? Else with no if, yep. Which is where? Here's an if, and here's an if. I'm missing an if, right? I guess I should just search if. Oh, I know. Silly me. That doesn't go there. All right. Now go. Okay. There. Done. All right. Okay. Sorry about that, you guys. Yep. Thank you, Simon. Good catch. Okay. Okay. Here. So this is what I was trying to do when that stopped working, right? So we said, get rid of that to make it more readable. We said that we were going to loop through these tags, right? This array called tags until we found 128, which is the third one. And so that's what it did. Looped once, nope, didn't find it. Looped twice, nope, didn't find it. Looped 3 times, up, guess what? Found it. Break. Break out of here. So there's, because we have, sometimes clients with 50, 100 tags, right? This whole explode and loop thing is pretty darn handy. If you need to, now you can also just do a query and say, you know, query this query for tag 128 and then show me everybody who has 128 and then go at it backward and say, is Nessa 133 in that group? But either way, you're going to have to basically get to that same point, which is either looping through all the people who have the tag or pulling the contact's tags and looping through to find if they have the one that you're looking for. And if not, set it, which is something that you often do here, or something like that. Does that make sense to everybody? I actually have not asked one time today, does anybody have any questions? But at this point, you guys have been doing this long enough. I assume if you do, you would be asking me. So I'll ask now. Does anybody have any questions? Awesome. You guys are becoming pros. We got like the whole hardcore guys here mostly today. All right. Okay, then I'm going to keep going. So that is what I have on real honest to goodness text strings. Ashley, you said you're trying to put a scenario context on this. Like, so what? So you need me to like give you an example of where you would use that? Is that what you're saying? A project where you would use that? Yeah, I mean, I do it all the time. So, for example, well, for this webinar, okay. So now I actually don't use it. I don't necessarily do this with tag IDs. A lot of times I will use tag name, but it would look something like this. So I would do something like, so for each tag as tags, what I'm looking for is 128 because that tells me if you're registered for today's webinar. Okay. So I might say something like, if tag ID 128, send this email, or using a template, for example. I might say, if you we have a lot of cases where we apply what we call process tags. So like process tags being tags that make Infusionsoft. This is what Brad Martineau calls it. Not, I mean, they have a different name for the tags. I always called them process, but he explains his process tags as tags that make Infusionsoft do things it won't do on its own. So we tag people a lot. For example, with something that says, could not find matching club, or so when there's a problem with something, we'll put a tag on them. Or I don't know. I can't think of it. I can't think of an example. Or just, almost anything. Gosh, I mean, where you would want to loop through their tags and just say, as a result of them having this is all. So, I mean, well, here's a way to think of it. This is essentially like the decision diamond in Campaign Builder, where you use the tag to say, if they have tag 128, do this, else, do this other thing. I mean, that's create the tag or add the tag would be another thing. Do they if tag 128? Great. If you get all the way to the end of the loop and you still haven't found it, then add the tag would be another thing. Okay, good. All right. Okay, we're just working my way through all these. Okay. So that is a string, an array, a loop, and an explode all put together. Well, Simon is asking why wouldn't I just use a a decision in Campaign Builder? I might. I use them quite often, but once I'm here there are things that I can't do. I may already be in the script, for example, and so I'm not going to break out of the script to go run it through Campaign Builder. And this saves me from writing two scripts because so the other, because a lot of times the things I use this for are not like I'm not just applying a tag. I've got, tons like the stuff I showed you yesterday or Tuesday with the webinar scripts, right? So I'm already doing 5 or 6 things in that script that has to be done in the script. So I'm not going to break out of the script. I'm just going to apply the tag in the script. It's just easier. So that's where I might do a loop and an if, something like that would be an example. Yeah. And if I'm the other thing that, kind of the other point of that is if I'm trying to do something as a result of knowing that you have the tag that has to be done in a script, then if I use the decision diamond, then I've got to write 2 scripts, right? I've got to, well, I don't have to. I can pass a variable, but I mean, at that point, you're already in here. You might as well just, use the API to do it this way. It's like once you're used to doing it, it's actually, believe it or not, pretty darn fast. Okay, so that's that. Now, I want to show you something else though. So these are kind of strings, but not really strings. But I didn't really have a good place to put them, and they're close enough to strings that I decided that this is where we would do them. So the next thing I want to do is parse URL, which is here. It's a URL is technically not a string; it's a URL, but it has a lot of the same components to it. So I'm going to get rid of, do I need this? I do not. Okay, so let's do parse URL. So this kind of actually comes in pretty handy. Oh, I think I deleted my parse URL. Let's do this. Let me grab, I need a big hairy URL. So you guys just bear with me for a second because I know right where to find one of those. I'm going to do this right here. Give me a second. You guys don't steal my identity. I guess I got to remember to take this off the tape. Okay. There's our big hairy URL. Okay. So that's this. Now, if I use parse URL like this, if I take this, well, let's not comment it out. Let's do this. Let's say URL equals, and then we're going to put this in here like that. Okay. I think it goes in there like that. And then I say, because I deleted it when I deleted my thing. And then I say parse URL. Here, I have it right here, actually. Right Okay, so we're going to do a print R. Oh, heck. On this URL. Print R. And what we're going to print R is inside print R. Now, normally we just put the variable name here, right? But we're actually not going to do that. We're going to do print R, parse URL, and then, which is a function, and then inside that, we're going to do URL. Okay? And then, and let's just see what we come up with. Okay, so let's try to print this and see what we get. Oh, parsing error. What? Echo. What don't you like? Oh, maybe that there's no semicolon there. Try again. There we go. Okay, now. Well, this is going to be way too long. Now, this is interesting because depending on how many different things are in your URL, like this doesn't have an anchor in it and doesn't have a couple of other things. But when you use this, you can see what happens with this parse URL. Again, same idea as explode, right? Explode took a string and turned it into an array. Parse URL takes a URL and turns it into an array. And not only that, but it's a pretty smart array in that it figures out what these various pieces of the URL are, and then gives them that key in your array, right? So that you could then work with them. Something like, what are we gonna do? Well, so there's a, oh wait, well there's a couple things. Number one, I could just say echo. What is the name of this array though? Because I didn't really assign it to an array. It doesn't really have a name, does it? Um, let's do it like this. Just let's make this an array called parts. Parts as parts. Okay, like that. And then we'll put parts in here, and I believe we'll get to the same place, and then we can, I believe, oops, error. Sorry, yep, I know, I'm working on it. There. Okay. So now if I say echo parts, and I want the host, I could do that like that. And I can work with it, oops, that way. That's one way. The other thing I can do, okay, uspolo.org. But the other thing I can do is, yes, you absolutely can explode the query, but there's really no point to that, Ashley, because it's already done for you. That array with all the value pairs is called a post or a get, and I'm getting there already. I mean, I will get there in just a minute. That is exactly what you're asking for, an array with all the value pairs. So there's really not any point in exploding this query, but could you? Of course you could. Yep. I mean, it's already done it for you as a shortcut. So why go to the trouble? And I'll get to that in just a quick second. The other thing that you could do here with this is you can actually ask directly in the same way that I just said, parse URL. Okay, you can actually specify which parts you want up front. So what you can do is you can say URL, for example, and I'm probably not going to remember these correctly, but I believe it's like they're in the manual, like this PHP URL path for example, will give you, oops, save. I hope. No, not if you don't echo it. It won't echo. I don't think it's gonna, well, it might. Let's see. Yeah, it did. So I asked it, so I can actually specify in parse URL up front. If I don't want just the whole thing, right, then I can just say I want this part, and it'll give that part back to me. Okay, so that's, you know, the really the I don't use this very often, quite honestly, because I can get most of these from another super variable that I'm about to show you, instead of having to do it using parse URL. But anyway, it's there, and since it was so close to explode, I thought I would show it to you. But honestly, if I'm gonna, most of these things, I end up using what I'm going to show you next instead. So let me do that now. Questions on that before I move on though. Okay. You're saying it's weird that I have two equal signs between what? Between each and? I don't see two equal signs. Not sure about that. Okay. Okay. All right, so let's keep going. Let me show you the server super variable, or super global, actually. That's what I think it's called. Okay, so move this and go here. Okay. So now with server, now this is kind of interesting. So if you do this on your server, give it a try. We're gonna do a print R. Only what we're gonna do a print R on is the server super global. Now it looks very similar to some other ones that we've already been using, like like get and post and cookie and request. Okay, this one's called server, and this one, if I save this one, okay, look what I get. I got to make this ever so slightly smaller. Not that, this, so that we can read it. Okay, now every different servers return different stuff, depending on what's been set and how your server is configured, but these are some pretty standard things. Okay, and so one of the there's a lot of different things I can get out of this. Many of which were, as I was saying before, are the same things that I could get out of that parse URL. There was nothing in the query string here, but there's your query string there. But so some of the things that I can get out of here that I do use and I do find quite useful are these. And then what time is it? Okay, good. I'm going to end probably just right on time. So, for example, let's look at this one. If we do method equals, and we're going to actually do something with this one to get us where we need to go. So if we say server equals request method, okay, that is going to tell us, and I sure wish Peter had not had to leave, because this is one of the things, that and the tag thing together would have solved this problem he's been struggling to figure out. So if we do IP, here, this one is called remote address. And if we do this one, we'll call this one, what did I call this one? Query string, like this, equals, and of course that was query string, like this. So now what we're going to do, see how handy print R is? Once you print R, then you know it's like you've got all the keys, and then it starts to get really, really easy. So now what I can do is I can say echo the request method was, and then oops, I guess I could put this all together in double quotes like this. All right, and then let's just do a couple of these. Oh, I need some breaks. Okay, so what was this one? The we'll do my IP address is IP, and then the other one is the query string was, and that was query string, like that. So now if I say, okay, so now this is starting to get some useful information, isn't it? The request method was get. Well, remember before I told you that we were using a shortcut when we were using requests that you really aren't supposed to? I mean, we do it, or I was told it was okay to do by one developer in Infusionsoft because we kind of have a controlled, we know where everything's coming from, you know, and so, but that technically really it's just, you know, not done to use request. That's a developer shortcut, and barb, and that really you're supposed to use post or get depending on which is which. Okay. So I'm going to show you what we're going to do with this in just a minute, right? Now here's another one. I've seen this question in the forum all the time, right? How do I store someone's IP address in a custom field? Now there is a like convoluted way to get it. Based on a saved search. If they're filling out if they are filling out a web form, but if they're actually coming to your server, then one of the ways that you can get it is this way. And this is handy for many reasons. When we want to record who was the person who actually did something on our server and make a note of that, a date and timestamp and the IP address. That's where we get it from. And the query string, it obviously was blank. Here's a date timestamp in what the heck they call that, UTC, which is the Unix timestamp, which can then a date function. We'll do these tomorrow. We have all these functions that convert this into the actual human readable date times, etc. Okay, so that's our server, super global. But here's what I want to do last with our super global, just to clean up this thing so I don't get yelled at for teaching you guys sloppy code, which I seem to get a lot, is this. Because remember, let me just see. Let me find this. If we go all the way back to the beginning where we were doing I don't even know if I've got it. But I can, I should be able to find one. Something that had a post in it. What were we calling posts? What was the name of that class? I totally can't remember. All right. Well, let's just pick one. I think yesterday, arrays would have had it here. open this one. Remember this? Actually, this is really where we needed it. Maybe? Oh no, that's not it. Shoot. Well, anyway, I'm not going to slow us up. But remember, we were using a request variable, right? And so it was like $_request instead of just doing a I know one's here. Think, Kim. Think. Nope, that's got a post in it. Well, instead of using post, okay, we've been using request. That's the shortcut. So we're going to clean that up, okay? So we're going to do this. If underscore server, I've got it right here. I'm just going to copy and paste. If server request method equals post, then what we're going to do is we're going to say something like contact ID equals underscore post ID. And then we're going to say else contact ID equals get. Oops, like that. Okay, so now instead of using request, what we've done is we've used proper. Okay, we don't have to know which one it is, because this is the problem Peter's having right now, and he's stuck because he keeps saying that, but the snippet, but it's sending a get, and can I change it to post? No, you can't change it. You don't get to decide that. There's no way to change the request method. That's being done by the server. But what you can do is just use this to figure out in advance whether it's a post or a get off of this server request method, and then use the proper super variable, super global, in order to capture that variable. Okay, so that is instead of, and I'm just going to write a note, use this instead of. Now it needs some error handling around it too, but that's okay. Instead of request, we're going to do the error handling on Tuesday. Richard wants to know what's the negative impact if we keep using request instead of get and post. Yeah, it's a really good question. In Infusionsoft, I just don't think it's a big deal. I really don't, because it's a controlled environment. There's a very limited number of places that a request can be coming from. In theory, I mean, I guess someone could attack your, I don't know. I guess someone could, well, but the issue outside of, let me just go at it a different way. The issue outside of Infusionsoft is request includes other things besides just post and get, like cookie as an example. Now, we typically don't set cookies in Infusionsoft, so the odds of actually picking up an incorrect value or a malicious value as a result of using this kind of wide open variable, I think is pretty slim. I think now, but I am not qualified to think about that, honestly. The person who told me to use request, however, I think, is more than qualified to think about that. And I really don't think he would have told me to use it had had he not felt like it was safe. The point that some of the senior programmers were making was the reason it's not done is that if you take this idea and you begin using it outside of Infusionsoft, you are opening yourself up to, I guess, some security issues. I believe that's the case. But again, so this is the point where I don't know enough to say it's a terrible thing or not. All I know is there were a couple of people that were like, I can't believe you're teaching them request. So now I can say I told you the right way to do it. I've been using request. Someone I pay a lot of money to told me to use request. If you want to use request, go for it. And if you want to know really why you shouldn't use request, then that would be a wonderful topic to post in the learners forum and let some of those people who care about it and know way more than me to tell you whether it's really a terrible thing or not. How about that? I'd say that's probably the best answer because I don't know. But now I know I've taken care of my obligation to tell you the right way to do it. How about that? Okay. All right. That is that. Sorry, I can't give you a better answer. I just don't know. I bet if you Googled it though, why not use request instead of uh I bet Stack Overflow would let's just do it really quick. Hang on one second. I bet Stack Overflow would give us a good answer. Just real quick. We can just do this. Why use get or post instead of request? Here we go. Request by default contains the contents of get, post, and cookie, but it's only by default. Fine. If I had to choose, I would probably not use request and I would choose get or post depending on what my application should do, i.e. one or the other, but not both. Generally speaking, you should use, okay, fine. You should use get when someone is requesting data from your application, post, right, when someone is pushing to. Either way, there will not be much of a difference about performance. See? Oh, but here's someone saying, okay, supposedly it has a performance issue. It's negligible. Okay, I don't know about XSS and XSRF, so I have no idea. See, this guy says, using requests should be unnecessary with proper site design anyway, and it comes with some downsides like leaving you open to easier CSRF XSS attacks and other silliness that comes from storing data in the URL. There you go. Okay, that's what you found too. Exactly. Okay. So that is what it was, right? Is that it is open. So apparently it is somewhat of a security issue. Okay, I think with that I am about done. However, I do have a request for you guys. Actually, I have a favor to ask of you guys. Because I have been doing these sessions, and I like to think that they've improved as I've gone along. And if you do not feel like you want to do this, then you will. My feelings will not be hurt. However, if you do, if you don't mind, and you would do it, and you think these courses are useful, and that you're actually learning something, would you go say as much in my marketplace? Would you leave a review in the marketplace to that effect? I'm not positive that you can even do that actually, as you're not technically my customers, and I don't know if they verify whether you are or not. But if you try it anyway, if you feel um, like you'd be willing to vouch for my ability to teach this stuff, I would really, really, really appreciate that. And if not, or it doesn't work, then no worries. But that's my um, Oh, you guys are sweet. That is my marketplace listing right there. All right. Any last questions before we wrap up? Okay. Well, that's it for today. Two more, you guys. We're almost done. And I really have loved teaching this to you guys. I've learned so much and had so much fun doing it. So is Saturday is dates, and Saturday is my first polo practice of the year. So I'm going to work really, really hard to get this done on Friday so that I can go play polo on Saturday morning and still be able to come back and do dates with you on at 4:30, and then Tuesday, last one, and we'll wrap up then and be done and go back to and just so that you know, we'll go back to our regular schedule every other Thursday with the what's possible with Infusionsoft and the API webinars. And the one that I'm going to do on Thursday, the 23rd, is I'm going to switch out person notes and I'm going to do gravity forms and all the different, how you can integrate some gravity forms with Infusionsoft without needing a plugin, which is really pretty simple. So that will be the 23rd. All right. No worries, Ashley, because you won't make it Saturday. Oh, we can, but you'll try to do the gravity forms. Cool. Well, as always, I will record it, and you can find it on Train and Simple. All right, you guys. Thanks. I'm glad that you enjoyed it, and I will talk at you guys all soon. Thanks. Have a great evening or morning, depending where you are. Thanks.